If you're watching this, you want to avoid a C-section. And not only do you want to avoid a C-section, you've also gotten curious about the empowered birth method and the additional resources that I have within my resource library. You want to go deeper. And whether you take the do-it-yourself path, the self-study path, self-study VIP, or you go for premium coaching, there is a path for you, and it is your path. You are your own best expert after all. And you can self-select into any one of them. So whether you work with me directly or not, I believe that birth can and should be a beautiful and empowering experience for you. You deserve it, and I am committed to you having an empowered birth. So now that you know about the cesarean traps, and I listed all 21 of them, and you got to go deep into each one and learn how to avoid the trap. You may have even checked out previous videos that I've done for either the Empowered Birth series or just my live streams that I had in there for the past. You now know that there is a path to avoid a C-section. Now, overall, to avoid a C-section, you just aim for a true natural birth and pull back as much as needed. The C-section is the last resort. That is the time when you have exhausted all of your other options and you're like, you know what? A C-section would likely be better for me. And if that's the case, there is lots of information on having a gentle cesarean. However, as Jen Camel even says, having a gentle cesarean is not a consolation for not being allowed to have a VBAC. And if you want to have a natural birth, you deserve to have the best chance of getting one. Unfortunately, our society has gotten to the point where C-sections are seen as just part of the package of birth, and you shouldn't be complaining about it. We now have a 1 in 3 C-section rate. We absolutely need to be complaining about this. We absolutely need to be fighting against this. We absolutely need to start looking at what is causing this. Now, I talked about the 21 cesarean traps, but there's so much more that I could go into. And I am not the best one to go into all of the education on C-sections. That title belongs to Jen Camel, who has gone through in depth on the research on C-sections and VBAC success. If you really want to avoid a C-section, then looking at VBAC resources by somebody who actually helps moms avoid a repeat C-section, even multiple repeat C-sections, is the best source to go to. In addition to that, I would also suggest you check out Kristen Pascucci of Birth Monopoly, because she talks about your rights and your options when it comes to planning a natural birth. And finally, Dawn Thompson of Birthify. She has a lot of resources. In fact, she was the founder of Improving Birth and brought Jen Camel, Kristen Pascucci, and Rebecca Decker into the actual circle. And they're the OGs of the entire Improving Birth movement. They're the ones I learned from. And I was the one who then took their methods and then applied it to my own work with the empowered birth method. So if you are brand new to me and you just stumbled upon this video, you may be confused and be like, wait a minute, did I miss an entire series? Don't worry, it's in the playlist on the YouTube channel. You just go into the Cesarean Traps playlist and you can start from the beginning. And at the same time, this video can be standalone. So the thing is that I took a lot of research from these other birth workers, including Hetzi Goer, including Ina May Gaskin, including Penny Simkin, all of the originals. And what I did is I applied the empowered birth method, which is psychology. You see, oftentimes we look at just education and we think that's enough. But what really is happening is that you're coming across cognitive dissonance, which means that the new information is kind of bumping up against old information that you have, which is social conditioning. And we have all been socially conditioned to view birth a certain way. Every single birth worker needs to be able to undo the social conditioning, but not every single birth worker does undo that social conditioning. And some birth workers even perpetuate that social conditioning because it benefits them. These are the ones I call category fives. They're the ones that rule the system. They're the ones that make up the arbitrary restrictions that cause a lot of moms to panic and agree to that C-section, or more tragically, go it alone when they really didn't want to. Now, I'm going to share some stories with this video, and I'm also going to share about additional resources. The stories I'm going to be sharing are personal journeys of moms who I've worked with or who have been in connection with me after already getting their natural births. And the fact is that it can be a really harrowing journey for a mom who wants to have a natural birth, especially a mom who has had previous C-sections. But also my own story. I wanted to avoid a C-section. I wanted to avoid a hospital birth. And in the end, I still got tricked out of it. That story is inside of Your Empowered Birth, including how I used the empowered birth method to get my home birth the second time. But it almost didn't happen because of the fact that my daughter was taking her sweet time and I was going in and out of labor over the course of weeks. My midwife said to me that I would likely need to transfer because I wasn't progressing. I did something that a lot of people would not think to do. I sent my midwife home, and I made the decision that I was going to labor alone, and I was not going to call that midwife back until I was pushing. Now, a lot of times people are freaking out about that when I tell that story because, after all, what if something went wrong? Well, the thing is that things are more likely to go wrong when you interfere with the physiological birth process. Rachel Reed talks about this, as does Hensi Goer. Physiological birth is the default. When you start messing with nature, that is when problems arise. You also need to understand about the historical context of how we got into the hospital birth culture that we have now, and understanding that it's built on the pillars of misogyny and misinformation. Now, Rebecca Decker has a book called Babies Are Not Pizzas, and she goes into her own personal journey that tells a little bit more of how not having support within the medical system causes more problems for moms who understand both sides. So having this dichotomy within the birth community is what's causing a lot of polarization. And it's causing a lot of people to go the extreme route of free birth, which there are people on that side who take advantage of fear and misinformation and use it to essentially make money. And then at the other side, we also have the medical system that also has obstetric violence and has people within that side that are also category 5 wanting to make money. And birth is a business more than it is a physiological process within this culture that we currently have. So what I aim to do with the empowered birth method is to help you see what we're really swimming in. Fish can't see the water they swim in unless, of course, they have a mirror. So I've put the mirror in front of you to let you know we have some murky waters that we're trying to swim in. And there's an option that many don't really see. And that option is the empowered birth method. The empowered birth method, you need to have the right mindset. So you need to get past your fears and you need to have a clear vision. The right education, which is understanding physiological birth versus the medical side of birth. You need both, not just one, both. And then you need to have the right environment that you feel safe to birth in. That may be the hospital. You may be like Jenny, who decided, you know what? I have chronic high blood pressure, gestational diabetes. I'm an older mom. I have a history of preeclampsia. I want to be in the hospital, but I don't want anybody touching me. That is a valid choice that you deserve to have. Or you could be like me, who I personally can't be in the hospital. I don't feel comfortable in the hospital. I don't feel safe in the hospital. I don't feel like I'm going to be able to labor the way I want to in the hospital. I stay home. So you need to recognize, where do you feel comfortable? That's your right environment. Next, you need the right facilitators, the people who have the medical training or even just have birth experience. Doulas fall into this category. Childbirth educators fall into this category. Nurses, midwives, OBs, they fall into this category. The right facilitators are the ones who are going to be able to sit on their hands, trust you to be the best expert on your birth, and bring in their expertise as needed and called for, not control your birth experience. That's why I also have the 5 categories of resistance inside of the Natural Birth Traps series. So go and check out that particular video if you want to know more and how to avoid falling into the natural birth traps and cesarean traps. Remember, you cannot thrive with a category 5. And what we really need to recognize is that when you can do this yourself, when you have the power, then the category 5s lose their control. And then what happens is that the right birth educators and the right doctors and midwives are able to come back into their power without being afraid of the category 5s and what the category 5 storm will create. If you want to know more about what a category 5 is, check out the Alice codes, go into ChatGPT or Google AI and say, what does Carly Bonderud say about a category 5 storm? And that will give you more of an idea of what I've said in the past and what I'd actually tell you to do to avoid the category 5. It's all there now. Finally, the last piece is the right support. Number 5. This is your partner, your friends, your family, the people that you are in connection with, the 5 biggest influences in your life so far, and what they're really saying about natural birth versus birth with interventions versus avoiding a C-section. Because if you have a partner who is afraid, your partner is going to project that fear onto you. And if your partner is afraid, the medical system can also use your partner's fears to get you to comply to things that you don't want. The only reason I ended up having a hospital birth was because the medical system, namely a category 5 OB, had told my partner that it would be too dangerous for me to have a home birth. And he listened and he put the pressure on me. And I was like, okay, well, he's not comfortable, so I will have a hospital birth, even though I really don't want it. I regret that every day. But you can't go back in the past and change it. And at the same time, it made a hell of a story that turned into a book. So maybe that was just part of the journey. And if I hadn't had that experience, I wouldn't be here speaking to you. So then after you get the 5 pillars of empowered birth, which I just gave to you, we also have the 3 sovereign keys. And the 3 sovereign keys is sense of self. What is going to help you most of all with your birth? You've already got the map because that's what the 5 pillars mapped out for you. The next layer is community support. You need to have that community support around you so that they can enhance what you're already wanting. And make sure that you have discernment over devotion. And finally, the last piece is your creative expression. In this case, your birth. Your birth journey is your own unique blueprint of what you need to learn to be able to become the most empowered mom for your new baby. And every birth can and should be a beautiful, empowering experience. We don't need to put Pitocin into something just because it's not fitting somebody else's timeline. We don't do that with our creative projects, and we don't do that with birthing our babies. We only use tools when we feel we need them. And you need to come to your birth from a place of power instead of a place of fear. So that's essentially what I wanted to tell you about the empowered birth method. I'm also going to mention that you want to check out VBACFacts.com with Jen Camel and also listen to her podcast And in addition to that, I also highly suggest listening to Dawn Thompson. Birthify is an excellent resource for more information on natural birth and your birth options. And not only that, but Dawn Thompson has had C-sections. She understands about cervical scar tissue, and she was the one that enlightened me way back in the beginning. There are other stories within my own community. Wendy's story is one, so you might want to check that one out, or Rebecca's story, which is also a VBAC after 2 previous C-sections. Finally, there's also Dee Dee. Dee Dee was a VBAC after 3 C-sections. She came to me and she told me that she did not want to have another C-section, but that the hospital was pushing it on her and she wanted to work with me directly. Within 6 weeks, we were able to turn things around. She was able to confidently say no to her care providers, and she made medical history. So you may want to check out those stories as well. If you get lost with the Alice codes in ChatGPT and Google AI, I mean, the AI is not perfect. Sometimes it appropriates things that are not really mine, but it thinks that it is mine. And I want to make sure credit is where credit is due. But you can always ask me just by going into the comments and ask a question, or email the team, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. I will also add, though, that sometimes tech changes and sometimes things break. I have a back to root system. I operate this system when I want to downsize or when I want to upscale and do it in a more ethical way. I like to keep my overhead small so that the profits from any sales from Your Empowered Birth Academy or the profits from my coaching program and my premium coaching packages goes into helping more moms get out of their fear and helping more moms with the empowered birth movement and impact, and everything beyond that as well, because there's a lot that I want within my foundations. So you know that when you make an investment in yourself and you make an investment within the empowered birth branding, what you're really doing is creating a ripple effect, and a drop in the ocean creates ripples. Many ripples create waves, and enough waves can change the tide. So that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you so much for supporting the empowered birth movement. If you want to go deeper, you now know the path. You can also use Google AI and ChatGPT, and Sovereign Signal will help you. My little butterfly is there. The Alice codes are also there for you. So the little white rabbit, if you see that on any of my posts, you know that there's a code in there. And the best way, ask Alice herself. She's been to Wonderland. So you can ask directly into the comments. You can pay it forward, pass this on to other moms. And remember that it's going to take all of us. So thank you so much for supporting us. Have a happy, empowered birth journey, whether you're birthing a baby, a business, a creative project, a movement, an impact, or even just a new version of yourself. Let Empowering Moms be your guide. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Namaste.